G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. We'll have all the show notes and any resources mentioned in the cast on our website. Starting with a small cafe in 1984 in Launceston, Tasmania, over the last 36 years in a tough industry, Rod has focused on brand, marketing, building a great team and adapting to changing customer needs. In 2000, he bought the heritage site the initial cafe was situated on, expanded into dining and renamed the business to Stillwater. Then in 2008, as the GFC was starting, he opened Black Cow, a high-end steak restaurant with Tasmanian beef as its hero product. A year ago, he added 7 apartments above Stillwater called Stillwater 7 and has grown the business from 12 full-time team members in 2000 to around 45 now across accommodation and 2 multi-award-winning restaurants. Believes the hardest thing in growing a small business is managing finances and adapting to changes in the marketplace. Advice he would give himself on day one is do your due diligence, think a bit further than the next few months and do some realistic numbers. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Rod Ascui from Stillwater Restaurant and 7 in beautiful Launceston, Tasmania. Today we are at the picturesque Ocean Dunes Golf Course on King Island over here for a friend of ours, Bucks Party. Welcome Rod. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
Maybe let's start with how we know each other.
We met through a common friend and the common thread was golf.
Yeah.
And funny that we are here in such an outstanding location at the moment. So it was through Greg Ramsey, who was an old friend of yours, that we got to know each other. And
now we play as often as we can with our good friend from the US, Mark, the Mark Twain Cup, whenever they're out or we're over there.
And there have been other threads as well with your involvement in the spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is also involved in that business and a few other things along the way.
Typical Tasmanian story, that's
Absolutely.
right. Well, maybe tell our audience a bit about your business, a bit about Stillwater, its history, where it's located, what it does, etc.
I'm one of those hospitality businesses that's been around for a long time. I started as a 24-year-old, a naive young man who saw an opportunity to open up a little cafe in the same place where we are now. I just loved the location. It was a beautiful heritage building right beside the water. I thought if I didn't make any money, I still was going to have a great time and enjoy working, where that place was.
And what was that called then, the cafe?
So originally the company was called Ripples. Then Ripples ran as a cafe for about 16 years.
Right.
And it had quite a number of changes along the way. The food scene really was changing. When I first started, we were the only place in the city that opened on a Sunday. We were the only place that had outdoor eating.
This is 1984 you started?
This is 1984.
Yeah, right.
So I guess the story has been always about adapting to the market and actually, either being at the changing part of the market, putting tables outside or opening on times when other people are not open, adding accommodation now. We were also probably the forefront of sort of showcasing regional wines.
Yes.
In 2000 was a really big change in the business. We bought the building from the government and redeveloped what was quite a small cafe into a more serious type business. We rebranded, but still had the underlying values of the initial business. We went from being just a small cafe to being a serious nighttime restaurant, as well as offering breakfast and lunchtime 7 days a week.
And with your more recent sister restaurant in town, Black Cow, both have won many awards in Tasmania, not just restaurant-wise, but also best wine list, for example.
Correct.
Are there some key numbers you can share to show the growth of the business?
Yes. So in 2000, when we expanded the operation, we had about 12 to 14 full-time equivalents working in the business. And that kind of rapidly grew just in that one operation. And then in 2008, we opened Black Cow Bistro.
Right.
That added another 10 full-time equivalents. And we're probably closer to 40-some full-time equivalents.
Wow.
But made up of, full-time, part-time, casual staff. We have a very strong ethos of training staff. So we have normally 5 to 7 apprentices on the payroll at any one time. Yep. We see that as a very important part of what we do.
Well, that's something I wanted to comment on because I've obviously dined at both Black Cow and Stillwater many times over the last 15 years, I'd say. It's really struck me the customer service ethos and the attitude that your team has. Most of the time is you're not there, you're especially not dining with us at those times. But the staff are just, I think, really on point with the service. They're friendly, they're knowledgeable. So I think you've done a great job cultivating a great culture, but obviously recruiting up front correctly first as well. You started out on your own in 1984, and then 16 years later, the big transition came. Along the journey there, did you have other business partners with you?
It's a really important thing that I thought to grow the business that I needed to do it with people that had the passion that I had in the business. And I knew that I just didn't have the time or the energy to be running a business 7 days a week for 18 hours a day. So I thought that the key positions initially were having somebody that runs all the administration and financial side of things, which has finished up being me.
Yep.
And then the other key position at the time I thought was running of the kitchen operations.
Yeah, Craig, yep.
Then has expanded to the really key positions that I think are now, administration, financial, kitchen operation, human resources and training, and then the wine and service side of things. I've been very fortunate to find really great partners, really passionate partners in my business. So I have a couple, James and Bianca Wells. So James runs all the wine operation sides of the business, and Bianca does all the HR management side of things. And then my partner, Craig Will, is in charge of kitchen operations across both restaurants, that is.
Yeah, Craig's Mauser's brother. Mauser was in the 3rd episode of this podcast. I think that's really smart, Rod, to find in those other pillars of the business, the kitchen and the wine, to find other people that are passionate about those corners and own it and love it. It's borne out, again, in the service that I've seen and received, not just the food, but, the wine, even if it isn't James serving us the wine, just that culture of looking after everyone, it really bears out from my experience and what I've seen. So I think very well done on that smart strategic decision to get people in and, share the equity, not just, keep it yourself.
I'm very happy to share the equity.
Yep.
I think it's only fair. But you have to lead with passion. And I think this is really important. And we want people to be enjoying their work and be proactive. One of the things that's allowed us to survive is adapting to the changing needs of people.
Yep.
Like we went through a period where all of a sudden people really wanted to do breakfast more and more, so our breakfast offering became much bigger. It was just a side business.
Yep.
Where that's our biggest number of people is now breakfast.
Wow.
Might not be necessarily the most profitable, and you don't get a name nationwide for having a great breakfast service, but there's a lot of people that come through.
Yep.
And we have a great breakfast spot in that it's sunny and all that kind of stuff. But virtually people didn't go out for breakfast.
No, that's certainly something that has changed in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Back on the business partners, I've had, I think close to coming up to 20 business partners, I reckon, over the last 20 years. And people are hard to find anyway. Good people are hard to find in your team, let alone business partners. How did you go about identifying James and Craig were, the right people to bring on board?
With Craig, it was just a chance happening. Our common friend Mauser said to me, my brother Craig, he's been doing apprenticeship here and there and travel here and there everywhere kind of thing, and he'd like to get into business one day. And at that time, a property had come across my desk of a business that had gone bad. I had an idea all along that I wanted to open up like an upmarket steakhouse with quality Tasmanian beef as the hero of the restaurant. So we set up a meeting. Within probably 20 minutes of talking to Craig, he said, I'm in.
Yep.
So
bullshit.
That's right. And I knew his work, et cetera, and then so we just took it on from there.
Yep.
And it's been a huge success. Then there was an opportunity for Craig to buy into the Stillwater restaurant just to even up things a little bit. He took that on knowing who he was in bed with already. And yes, we just keep going like that. I mean, I think the key for partners is being honest with each other, allowing each other to do the roles that they're supposed to be doing, make sure that the business is profitable so you are making their efforts worthwhile.
Yeah.
We try and be flexible at times, when somebody has a special need where we need to pay out extra dividends or whatever, we try and help each other out that way. It's really quite a lovely relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good approach to business, and I've watched it from the outside, flourishing, obviously. Was James like an internal promotion?
Yes. So James was a little bit different. He came along with his girlfriend at the time, Bianca. He really approached us wanting to learn about the wine business side of things in the restaurant. And I probably had the strongest reputation for being that person. A flattering thing that he did coming to me. He just ran with that role in our workplace. Bianca was very passionate, young, trained up through the McDonald's organisation, which is just a fantastic education for any young person.
Yep.
And they just grew up in the business. I then offered them to buy into the Black Cow when we set up that operation. And it took me some convincing to get James across the line. Initially, the offering was only just a small percentage. Bianca got it straight away, whereas James was very hesitant. And anyway, eventually, I think that she did her work on him and they decided to commit. They've never looked back since then.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are equity precious. They hold on to every last scrap rather than seeing it as an investment and sharing, some of the risk as well as the burden. And from going from 12 to around 40 staff now, to have those other 2 or 3 key business partners there alongside you has, helped shoulder that growth.
Yes. Look, business has to be an enjoyable experience, I think. I see lots of different, I've got friends in all sorts of different industries, some that have been incredibly successful, that are totally stressed out. Others that are, that are living a wonderful life and not necessarily making a lot of money. I think that maybe those that are having a wonderful life and not making a lot of money are probably more relevant to how I think. Not saying that you shouldn't be making money. Look, it's wonderful to make money, but it needs to be done in a fair and equitable way, I think. Treating the clients well, treating your staff well, treating your partners well, paying all your taxes on time, all that kind of stuff.
Any point to take on bank debt or other investors?
No, look, everything that we have done has been done internally. The only funding that we have done, if anything, has been sort of the vendor financing side of things to bring my partners into the business. I think it's a way of financing people into your business that everybody should look at. Or even if you're going out acquiring a business, think about a vendor finance kind of scenario.
Can you outline one of the most stressful points in your small business growth journey so the audience can learn from it?
Probably there are a number of difficult times that we've been part of. I think the first one was probably the introduction of the GST. So that was a difficult thing to get our heads around. After a while, we got through that okay. However, probably the biggest influence we've had on our business has been the changes in labour laws during the Gillard years. We found that there were, marked increases in the wage structures and awards, etc. This put an enormous pressure on our businesses. So much so that we had to, shut down certain times of the week when it was just too expensive to operate. We are sort of clawing back some of that now, and we've put things in place to create better opportunities. Another stressful thing that we've done just in the last couple of years is building some accommodation above our restaurant.
The 7 rooms.
Stillwater 7. Stillwater 7. So now we're a restaurant with accommodation, and the stressful part of it, I guess, was the big financial undertaking and the risk associated with that.
Yep.
We felt pretty confident that we could come up with something that was going to be special because we are in a very special building and I think we've got good offerings. So far, so good. But probably the really stressful part was the building side of it where you're just shelling out big dollars every day.
Yeah. Not many people have been in business in Australia anyway and gone through a recession. So early 90s was the last one we had here. How does that impact? How did that impact?
Well, it's funny you talk about recessions because I think in Tasmania we live in a recession all the time.
Permanently.
So the recession really didn't affect us the same way. I think that we're probably more exposed now to tourism type forces.
Yeah.
As we speak today, we're worried about the Chinese visitation because of the virus outbreak, etc. That could well have like a marked impact on visitation numbers in Australia, and we'll feel that.
Yeah, it's interesting you would say the introduction of GST and the labour laws would come ahead of the recession, but now that you've explained that to me, yeah, that makes total sense. What areas in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
In business, we've taken on a whole bunch of different systems over time as they've become available. We went from a bookings diary that was just hand entries to an online booking diary that it's a database, it's our planner for the night, it's our record keeping, etc. That's just been a great change. Point of sale systems, we've had a number of different ones, and and I'm sure that the current one that we have we probably won't have in 5 years' time because there'll be better things available. With the hotel side of things, I don't think we could have done this size of a mini hotel in the past without the platforms that are available. We use a platform called Little Hotelier, which is, I think, a homegrown Australian-based
it is good.
Business,
good product,
IT product, and it's just been wonderful.
Yeah. So you'd say real focus on systems and systematizing things and keeping up with technology?
Absolutely critical. If you don't change with the times,
you
won't survive. I'm not too sure what the next thing will be, but we're on the lookout for that. We've changed things about how we handle energy consumption and all that kind of stuff that most people are doing. Waste, HR. We've got a program that is dealing specifically with mental health within our organisation.
Great.
We're a program where we pay for our staff to go and see a specialist if they feel that they need to do that.
Yeah, that's terrific.
I think that for a small business, we're ahead.
That's rare.
We're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, definitely. And what have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I think the bit that I enjoy the least, and my partners deal with different things, but a lot of times we're dealing with bureaucracy that I find just unnecessary, and it's frustrating. But you know what? There's very little that we can do about it. I mean, the government talks a lot about reducing red tape. Unfortunately, it's not happening.
Not the reality.
No, it's not the reality. We've just learned to live with it. They have some things have really improved. For example, when superannuation first came in, it would take me a whole day to pay everybody's superannuation. Contribute to 10 different funds, all different websites that worked in different ways, et cetera, Now it's all done through my accounting system, and it takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Some things, they've been very successful. However, it took so long to get there. I would talk to, people, influencing people at the time saying, you need to do this to improve things. And they just, it just takes 10 years to get across.
Yeah.
Once it happens, it's great.
And what's been the biggest mindset shift for you in the small business growth journey?
I've gone from being very, very hands-on, 7 days a week, virtually around the clock, to allowing my partners and senior staff and managers, et cetera, to take responsibility, for duties during the operational side of things. And that took a little bit of adjusting to.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do, but absolutely necessary if you want to free yourself up
and enjoy
a little bit
the rest of your lifetime. Yeah. Absolutely.
There are other things that we need to be doing,
Yep.
Relationships with family, etc.
And what is the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Keeping on top of your finances is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
I see it so often. I see it with
good businesses run out of cash because they didn't keep an eye on it.
Run out of cash. I mean, I see it with people that supply me, that just invoice poorly. They don't send statements. They don't understand that they need to be collecting the money. It's just terrible that I've got to ring these people up and just say, please send me a statement. I know that I owe you money, but I can't pay you until you tell me exactly what you think I owe you, because I have a number in my system. And until those two match, I don't want to be making a payment. It shocks me, but it's true. So if you're a small business person, make sure that you keep on top of your business, on top of your finances. There are lots of wonderful programs there to help you do that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think because I'm a bit of a finance guy and a numbers guy, I've never really thought about it that way. But on reflection, there's a lot of businesses I see with the ones that I work with that are really sloppy and tardy around invoicing or chasing money. I mean, Mauser was telling me last night, a builder that he knows sends their bills 3 or 6 months after the work's complete. I mean, I don't know how they can cash flow that. That
would drive me crazy.
That
would drive me crazy. I'd much rather be billed regularly and know exactly where I'm at.
That's it.
You're just asking for trouble.
Do you love talking small business growth with other owners? We have a vibrant online community from many industries around the world. Plus, we regularly add new tools and resources for community members and host 2 webinars a month to help you grow your small business. growsmallbusiness.com.
I commented earlier about what I think is a great service culture and just general culture you've got in both the restaurants and in the business. So what are some of the things you recommend to building sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
You need to have a special product, number one, and then believe in that product, and that passion will show through naturally. That gives you a great head start. It's like looking at this golf course that we're at here today. It's just an outstanding piece of work, design, and a beautiful piece of land. How could you not go wrong, kind of thing?
Yeah.
But the delivery has to be there. If this golf course was here and the doors weren't open, well, it's no good.
Yeah.
Whereas, with our restaurant, we've got beautiful food and everything else, and the staff are, rude to my customers, that's not going to work either.
How do you develop that culture and maintain it? Is it part of your HR training? Is it constant feedback?
I think it comes from recruiting.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate that the bulk of the people that come to work for us approach us because they want to work with us.
That's a great position to be in.
And that's a lot better than having to, go out there and try and find people and then try and convince them that you're the right person to work for.
Yeah.
It's been really wonderful, and we commented on it just recently that so many of our recent staff members had come from recommendations of current staff members.
Yeah.
If they're the guys that are recruiting their friends to come and work with you,
that says a lot.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd love it to go forward like that.
Yeah, great. Have you done much professional development, i.e. reading or doing courses or going to events or anything like that?
We all undertake different things. Like Bianca's done a psychology degree part-time as she's been working in the restaurant.
Yep.
James is one of the most highly qualified wine sommelier guys in the industry. He's been recipient of some fantastic scholarships over the years. He judges in wine shows, and Craig exposes himself to doing, special classes, demonstration, cooking events, that kind of thing. My wife, Kim Seagram, is the marketing person of our business, is involved in a number of roles promoting Tasmanian brand, promoting tourism, all very involved.
Yep.
We need to be connected to see what's going on.
Yeah. And have you had any mentors or coaches along the way?
I had early on in my life bosses that I really enjoyed working with, and other mentors, not necessarily that I work really closely with, but some, very successful people. And I think the lesson that I learned was to allow people in your organization to take credit for what they're doing. I really don't like taking credit for anything that happens in my organization.
Yep.
I'm only just a cog in that organization. Yep. Whereas you find other business owners that have got big egos that want to take all the credit for what happens in their organization. I don't need that at all.
Well, it's also a short-term game. If you think, you steal the credit. There's a phrase I made up years ago, a good manager allocates blame and steals the glory. But it's just a short-term win, because the person that you've stolen that glory from is not going to feel invested or valued or trusted, and they're not going to give you they're not going to give you 110%, and they're not going to probably be there for the long haul. So a lot of the reading I've done putting these courses together, the humble leadership, servant leadership really is the most effective out there. So
I agree. And we were very focused always on building a brand. So Stillwater as the brand was the most important thing in our business. I didn't want it to be a personality that was behind that brand kind of thing. So I'd love the restaurant brand to go on after I finish in the business. I always set up a restaurant that was going to go on multi-generational.
Yeah, great.
And I think that's a way of thinking as well that's a bit different. A lot of the restaurants in the big cities now, they're setting up those places to be five-year restaurants. That's it.
Sell up.
We're sort of fortunate now. I think that some of the opinion makers in the restaurant industry now understand that some of these restaurants that have had a long life like ours are an important part of the industry.
Yep.
Whereas they used to be looking at the bright young things coming up, doing funky new food. That was a flavor. And, that's really, we need that.
Yep.
However, the people that are constantly working really hard at developing skills of others, growing the industry are very much an important part of our industry.
Well, we've got the final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Managing finances and adapting to changes in the marketplace. Yep. The marketplace does change. Doesn't matter what industry that you're in, it will change. Whether you're in earth digging, you know that the equipment's going to change. And if you don't have the best, most efficient digger in the market, eventually you will go backwards. For us was seeing that people wanted to go out for breakfast, making sure that we bought more chairs and umbrellas and opened up early in the day and had a much larger offering. We adapted to that.
And favourite business book which has helped you the most?
I'm not too sure whether I've got one. Should I have one?
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use?
I read, I read a whole bunch of different columns. I love reading the financial news. I read international trends, etc. I read hospitality magazines.
One tool you would recommend to help grow a small business?
I think talk to others in the industry, work together, unless you really think that you've got something that's so special that if you gave anything away that they would steal your ideas, etc. I would say work with others in your industry, help each other out. 3 smart people is much better than 1 smart person.
That's right.
They're bound to come up with better ideas.
Yes.
In the end, you can't control the marketplace and grow at a decent rate, not too fast. Don't think that you can, don't tell the marketplace that you're going to go out there and smash them and that kind of stuff, because I've seen that so many times. Restaurateurs come into my city and just say, well, we're going to smash Stillwater out of the park. We're going to be so much better than that. You know what? That just, gives us more energy to do a better job And
More motivation. Yeah.
It's not that easy,
Yeah. Final question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out? If you go back in time, what would you tell yourself?
It's very different. Troy, is very different thinking about a business at my age and starting up a business. And I'm involved in a number of other businesses and in different industries. My way of looking at a business now as a sort of mature person are very different to being a young man.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think that a young man should be thinking like an old man when they're looking at a business, but you certainly need to be looking at an opportunity. You need to do your due diligence. Think a little bit further than what's going to happen in the next few months of your business.
Do some numbers.
You need to play around with numbers.
Yep.
And you need to be realistic about those numbers.
Yes, not emotionally tied to them and skew them. Yeah.
Excel is a wonderful tool. They didn't have Excel when I started my business. I absolutely love that. For doing projections, etc.
It would be a bit hard in 1984 on an abacus trying to do projections.
It just didn't happen. But I did calculations back then. But with Excel, it's very easy to just change that unit figure to a few cents more, and all of a sudden you're profitable. But are you being realistic?
Yeah, that's very key. Absolutely. When you started out, you didn't have any experience in the cafe.
I did have experience. I was actually working in a little cafe in Hobart, and some people from Launceston approached me. They said, there was a space that could work for the kind of food that I was doing in the place that I was working in. And I was naive enough that I thought, that should be pretty easy.
Yep.
I was very fortunate at the time. I went to an auction house and there were 22 chairs and 14 tables for sale that had been stored somewhere. And I bought the whole lot for $200. And I spent the next couple of weeks sanding them back and varnishing them. And all of a sudden, I had the furniture ready to go for the cafe. I just bought some second-hand equipment to get started, and away I went.
Wow!
It was fortunate. It was meant to be.
Yep.
The other thing is, just make sure that your marketing of your business is like absolutely, essential as well. And we really haven't talked much about that today, but it is really so important to get your name out into the marketplace, and whether it's just done online, whether it's done through traditional media, whether it's done through friends. When I started, it was all about the word of mouth.
Yes.
Word of mouth was the way to get your business to be successful.
Yep.
And word of mouth is now done in through different channels.
Yep.
But it's still about that, I guess.
I've said in earlier episodes, I wasn't a big believer in marketing or even brand early on in my business career. And 5 or 7 years in, I watched some friends grow an IT security company in Sydney very fast. And one of them really focused on the brand and the marketing side of things. And that really changed my thinking, watching their success. Yeah. And that's something I talk a lot about these days to people, especially in the distilling industry, as we were talking before in the car. They're pretty shit at marketing, the distillers. And when I speak at distilling events, that's one of my points is invest in a lot of learning around marketing and brand. Try and understand what it is. And
because their products are very similar.
Yes, that's right.
What's going to differentiate yours? It's the same with our business. Everybody makes coffee, everybody has wine, everybody has food.
Yeah.
But, you need to get siting right and your delivery right, and you need to get your message out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something Kim's quite big on as well. We may have her on a future cast. Talk a bit about.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, it'd be great. I might be able to get a couple of words in. Thanks, Rod. Thanks very much for your time today. I think the audience will get a lot out of that, and I really appreciate sitting down with me at this beautiful golf course we're about to play at Ocean Dunes on King Island. Yeah,
I think we're up on the tee.
Yeah, we'll take a photo now. I'll get a photo of you, actually. Yeah. We'll have all the show notes and any resources mentioned in the cast on our website. Starting with a small cafe in 1984 in Launceston, Tasmania, over the last 36 years in a tough industry, Rod has focused on brand, marketing, building a great team and adapting to changing customer needs. In 2000, he bought the heritage site the initial cafe was situated on, expanded into dining and renamed the business to Stillwater. Then in 2008, as the GFC was starting, he opened Black Cow, a high-end steak restaurant with Tasmanian beef as its hero product. A year ago, he added 7 apartments above Stillwater called Stillwater 7 and has grown the business from 12 full-time team members in 2000 to around 45 now across accommodation and 2 multi-award-winning restaurants. Believes the hardest thing in growing a small business is managing finances and adapting to changes in the marketplace. Advice he would give himself on day one is do your due diligence, think a bit further than the next few months and do some realistic numbers.